Welcome to Season 2 of Relatable Catholic. We're back with new conversations, familiar faces, and the same heart for making the Catholic faith approachable, honest, and lived out in everyday life. Whether you've been here since day one or you're just finding us, we're so glad you're here. Welcome back. Hello, and welcome back to Relatable Catholic. It is me, Katie, here with the one and only Mr. Geoff Kaiser.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, so this week we'll talk about it in a little bit. This week is the Solemnity of St. Joseph. That is when this episode comes out. So I needed a dad to join me.
Yes, and a dad 4 times over and another one on the way. So.
Yes, that is exciting announcement that the Kaisers are expecting the 5th Kaiser.
Right. Yeah, the 5th Kaiser. And we never find out the gender ahead of time, so the kids are all trying to decide if they want another brother or if Dorothy should get a sister. And I think that all are in favor of another sister, but Ambrose is not on board with that.
I could see that.
Yeah, he's in favor of another brother.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, he's got his ideas of how a family should look and be structured.
Right.
And
yeah.
The more boys for him, the more he's satisfied. Whatever.
One girl is plenty.
Well, right. Happy with whatever it will be, and a boy or a girl, and just, you always pray that it's going to be healthy, that there'll be a healthy baby. And that's the hope.
Yeah. Well, the perfect candidate for this episode, I would say.
You give me more credit than I probably deserve.
We had, just to recap a little bit so last week there was no episode because we had parent-teacher conferences, but even bigger, I would say, than parent-teacher conferences was state basketball, which was really exciting. The team made it all the way to the championship again, which led to a lot of no school days.
Right. I remember when I was on the show last time, you had talked about that. You said, and you had to hope that the basketball team does well.
The teachers have been talking about this since August.
Right. And I looked at the team and you always hope that they're going to be able to live up to their potential. And most teams, it's hard to say whether teams live up to their potential. I think potential is kind of an interesting word in and of itself. Of, when you're young, you hear potential and you think, oh, that's a really good thing. But the older you get, the more people talk about your potential, the more it's almost like, I don't want people to talk about my potential because I want people to talk about, my ability or what I've actually done, and almost turns into something that's not a compliment anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that this team really lived up, played to the best of their ability, played their hearts out. Man, they played with so much heart. It was an exciting state tournament to watch and to be a part of. And if there are a couple no school days in there because of it, that's all right too.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to Father Mike Schmidt's homily this week, but I thought it was just so perfect. I wish I could make the basketball team listen to it, because I don't know if you guys, I'll link it if you haven't listened to it yet, but it's also part of the Pray 40 if you're doing that on Hallow. Just about how it's so easy for us to focus on the negative, and when all of this awesome, positive, great things are happening, it's so easy to look at the bad things that are happening. So this is the 3rd year in a row that the basketball team has made it to the state tournament and has lost the state tournament, or lost the championship game, which sort of is oh gosh, we lost again. But we made it to the state championship 3 years in a row. And especially this group, nobody expected them to make it to state. Nobody expected them to win at state. No one was expecting them to get to the championship game. And they played just their best. They just ran out of gas that last quarter. And just to be so proud of their accomplishments. And Father Mike Schmitz, he had that example of Theo Vaughn, who is a comedian, a collab I was not expecting. Just how he had somebody on the show and he's look around the room and look for things that are red. And then he told him to close his eyes and he's now look for things that are blue. And he couldn't find anything he couldn't think of anything because he was only focusing on the red things. And that's just how our brains work too. When we're only focusing on the negative, it's hard for us to like really be grateful for what we do have. So like that's all I could think about. And that homily this weekend was just like, gosh, like what an accomplishment. And it's so easy to focus on like, ugh, like they lost, but like what? And like these are kids too, like
Right.
all the pressure that these kids are under, like, oh yeah. But I was just so proud of them.
I think, that homily too was one that it was really good to hear. I had an interesting week.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're going to spin this positivity on your week.
It really was an exciting week. There's a lot that, as a principal, that we have to get ready for when it comes to a state tournament, from the logistics and the planning and what parents, and sometimes you have people that reach out and they don't necessarily agree with the plans that you set forth, whether that's to have school or not to have school, and so you deal with that kind of stuff, and that happens, and I understand that. As people remind me, sometimes you can't keep everybody happy, but, the idea is then, there's a lot of people that do want to get out and support the team. On Tuesday, I left for Des Moines, and Kelsey was going to be leaving shortly after I was because we had some students receiving an award at the Capitol, and I got a call from Kelsey, and she was starting a little bit later, and she said, well, I couldn't get out of the garage. I said, well, what happened? Well, the garage door is broken, and there's a dent in it and a crack. I thought, well, what happened? Because I was just there. I just left a couple hours earlier. And she's like, it's okay. My mom's going to take me. And so your mom had to come down to help out. And so they took her van, and that was all right. And I get home, and by the garage door breaking, it meant that Kelsey's dad and I, he's been working in Bellevue. He has his own business. And so he was in town. And then we were able to have a dinner together on Wednesday night because he was in town working. We had parent-teacher conferences on Wednesday, and then he came over, and we started working on the garage door a little bit together. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for the garage door breaking.
Yeah.
And then on the way to the state tournament, I'm driving, and I noticed the car was making some different noises.
I call your car the clown car. I don't know.
It is a small little car. Eventually, I think I'm going to own a truck, and then I'll feel more Jackson County. But right now, the Sonic, it's this little Chevy vehicle, and
picture like a red golf cart.
Yeah, I could get stuck in a pothole in the winter and be like in there for like a week before somebody notices that I'm gone. And I'm driving, and I noticed that the battery light comes on, and that's not usually a good sign, especially if you're driving. Like, I didn't leave a light on; the car just isn't running. It's moving. So I'm trying to drive, and I'm trying to look up on my phone like mechanics now, and so I'm looking it up as I'm trying to drive on I-80, and I find this one place, and it's this Morrison Auto in Grinnell, and there's an advanced auto parts store and stuff like that, but I wanted to go somewhere where it's like again, good reviews. I could tell as I'm driving down I-80. It's not like I got time to read them, but. Look it up, and I'm like, this guy looks like he's the real deal. So I drive right to his place, and it's like a house that has a big garage, and that's it. And he's got one sign that just says like Morrison Auto, and I'm like, okay, this is the place where I'm going to stop. And once I stop the car, I know it's not going to start again. So I get there and leave the car running, and he's like, oh, great, you left the car running. I was like, yep, I knew enough to do that because I read about that too on the I-80.
It's a little scary story.
It just gets wilder and wilder. And anyway, so he puts my car up on the jack, and again, I'm getting my dad's truck here. My goal is at the end of the summer. So I don't want to put a lot of money into my Sonic. And I knew the tires were starting to get down there, but I made it through winter, and I don't drive it a ton. Anyway, so he lifts the car up, and then he looks at the tires, and he's like, oh, man, these tires are in bad shape. There's like, where the metal starts kind of sticking out. And it's like, he goes, I can't guarantee you're going to get back to Dubuque on these things. And I'm like, well, as opposed to a tire exploding or something like that. And he was a genuinely nice guy, right? Like, he's talking to me like he obviously could take an advantage of the situation. The guy pulls over on the side of the road.
Right.
He could have said your battery's gone. the alternator's gone, the engine's not working. But he puts it up on a jack and he starts taking it apart and he goes, yeah, okay, yeah, this is what, and he knew what was wrong with it right away. And he goes, I can get another alternator in 4:00 tonight. And I said, well, that's when the game is. He goes, oh, that's all right. It just gives me more time to work on it then. And I said, well, can I pick it up tomorrow? He goes, yeah, that works. And so I was like, okay, well, then I get a night with my family at the hotel, because if we lost, I was going to drive back that night. We ended up winning, so then I was going to stay out there anyways. So it all worked out. But you think about this, and if the alternator hadn't gone out, I don't get my tires checked. Who knows what could have happened on the way back from I-80, because the car was not in great shape. I get to meet this guy who really has a passion for fixing things and just is a good down to earth kind of guy. And again, it's I think it surprised Kelsey, because when I got to the game, she thought I was going to be very upset and frustrated on my morning and how everything went. It's like, I don't know. This is just, life is expensive. Life is hard sometimes. And we all know that. And so that's where I think that focus on the positivity. I'm not always good at it either. It's one of the things I've been trying to give up during Lent is the negativity, the focusing on the hard, or on the bad.
Yeah.
So that's my story of making it to state, and making it back. And now I got two new tires and a new alternator on the Sonic.
Oh, man.
So now whoever ends up with the Sonic after me is going to get one that works, which is better than the condition it was in a couple days ago.
Yeah, you're getting quite a car.
When I lived in Milwaukee, it was a great little vehicle. Could park anywhere. You don't have to worry about driving anywhere where roads aren't good, because they got so many plows out there. But it's done me good in Jackson County too. Like I said, I just walk to school every day, so I don't ever have to go very far. It doesn't seem like. Yeah. And if I do, I got an excuse of why I can't make it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if the Sonic can make it. I better stay home today. Can't go to that meeting.
I'm sure people will understand.
Yeah, they're like, it's raining. Sonic can't handle that. Better stay home.
So you might say that Mr. Morris, was it Morris or Morrison? And Mr. Morrison was acting kind of fatherly to you.
Yeah. I mean, which actually is a good way of saying that, Katie, because my dad was a mechanic. He worked a couple jobs. When he was growing up, he was a mechanic, worked at a bicycle store. And so I was telling this Mr. Morrison that about, because I always think that's going to help me, where like a guy's not going to take advantage of me. He's going to think I know about something about it. I don't know anything. My dad let me hold the light. Like that was my dad and my experience working in the garage together, and I knew I didn't do that well. Anyway, so I was like, well, my dad was a mechanic, but in a way, you're absolutely right in terms of you submit yourself into the help and the care of somebody else, and I didn't have a choice. I had to do that because it would have been very easy to get like I thought about if I would have stopped at a rest stop to go look at it myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what I was doing, and B, I would have been stranded.
Yeah.
And then I would have needed a tow truck, and I would have the repair bill would have skyrocketed because now I'm paying for that too. And instead, he I think like a father does, right? Like tries looking out for the best interest of the person that they're working with, and kind of welcomes you. Because I remember I made that phone call. I said, "Hey, I got a Sonic. I'm 15 minutes away. You got openings for it?" And he goes, what kind of car is it? I said, well, it's a Chevy Sonic. And he goes, yeah, I got 15 minutes, or I'll be ready in 15 minutes for you. And
you
just kind of think
so nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he cleaned up his area and was ready he knew it was his car with a battery light was coming in. And and he just put it up and took a look.
Yeah. So. Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great segue into a great spiritual father.
Right. The mechanic of Grinnell
into St. Joseph.
Right. It works, though.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about St. Joseph and how he is sort of like the picture of what the church calls, I think, to be a good father, the protector, the provider. We're going to talk about St. Joseph. If you don't know a lot about St. Joseph, obviously he was Jesus's foster father, is how we say that. because obviously God is Jesus's father, Mary is Jesus's mother, but Joseph took on the role of Jesus's father here on earth. So he would have been in charge of protecting Jesus and providing for Jesus and for Mary. And, time and time again, he didn't say anything in the Bible, but time and time again, we're shown how he protected Mary and he protected Jesus, and the way he obeyed God, especially at the beginning of their story, of Mary and Joseph's story, when, he finds out Mary's pregnant and he's definitely not the father. So, I think too, how in the Bible it says like Joseph was going to divorce her quietly. Like, I think that just shows too, like what a humble heart he had, because in those days, Mary probably would have been like maybe even killed, right? Possibly, for being an adulterer. But in that way, Joseph was going to just, like let things settle down. You go your way, I'll go my way. I still want to, still in that protective mode. But then obviously, then the angel came to him and revealed to him that no, Mary was pregnant with God's son, and that he should take them into his home. And so he did. So that obedience to God is another trait that I think fathers really look up to in St. Joseph.
I think that's right. I think if somebody's, if you're listening and thinking, I don't know a lot about St. Joseph, I think that's a lot of us that feel that way. There's lots that we know about Mary, obviously with Jesus, and a lot of people in the Bible have much larger roles than what Joseph does. And I think a lot of fathers find themselves in a role in their family that sometimes is kind of that same way, right? When we were talking about the basketball team just a little bit ago, and one of the things that really struck me was they were playing this game against Montezuma, and it's the end of the game, and Louis took this fadeaway three-pointer in overtime, and it goes and that instant moment where you're not thinking, you're just reacting to that shot. He's celebrating and the team's celebrating, and he runs over to where his dad is sitting, and there's a picture of his dad, kind of patting him on the back, and Louis, just his face is just one that's is that combination of exhaustion, and it's because they just played this hard game, and celebration and accomplishment, and you have this silent father who's saying, well done. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I think that's an example that we have of Joseph, of what a father's role in the life of a family is it's to encourage, it's to celebrate the accomplishments, is to be there when there's hard times, because, the other team would have experienced just the opposite of the elation that Marquette was feeling.
Right, yeah.
And those kids went to their dads, and went to their, to their parents, and their parents helped comfort them. And I think fathers take on a role, especially in the lives of their sons, but I think in the lives of their daughters, that's very unique. And it's, I don't want to say it's an unsung hero, because I don't think fathers oftentimes think of themselves as heroes. You oftentimes hear guys say, like, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just here. But I think that is so important. And it's okay not to know a lot about the person, because you can learn a lot by the actions. And I think maybe that's something else that we learn a lot from St. Joseph.
Mm-hmm. And when I was thinking about it too, or when I was reading about it, just like that example, can you talk more about like the example of like what a father should be, and like how the example of the father leads their children to also want to grow in their faith and be strong in their faith? And because there's that staggering statistic that 80% of children whose fathers are like faithful will remain faithful, and it goes down to like 20% when they're not. So yeah, just talk more about like how that helps, or like examples of.
I think that the father's relationship with their children is so profound in ways that they can't. I know I struggle to understand just the impact that I have in the life lives of my children. And today we were clearing snow. A lot of snow fell overnight.
Because last week we had the perfect Monday, 70
it was
degrees.
beautiful. We were riding our bikes
sunny. We had short sleeves. Honestly, I got a little sunburn when we were outside.
And now we have a blizzard.
Today we had a blizzard.
Right.
But a no school day, so
I was pushing the snowblower, and Dorothy was one step behind me as we pushed the snowblower and all the way down the block and all the way back, and she just followed me. And I think that young boys, young girls look at their father as somebody that they should feel safe around, and at the same time calls their children to be more through their actions. And I try to do this. I think that every father has that desire to do that. And I know I fall short a lot of the time in my efforts to try to help, because there's habits and there's commitments that I have outside. When Dorothy asks me, "Can you play?" and I say, "Well, no, I have to work right now," and those kind of things hurt. But at the same time, she's also seeing too like work is hard.
Father, the provider.
Right. There's that element of it. And so our kids learn a lot when we aren't talking, and when we aren't, when Creighton was struggling with a hard basketball game, and it's that I can sit down next to him and I can say, yeah, I get that this is hard. I understand that not everybody in sports is going to succeed in every way that they possibly think that they should every time that they go out and take the court. Those things don't happen. And it's okay, because, I still love you through that. I still support you. But also, if you want to get better, it doesn't just happen. And I think that that's a unique way that fathers play that role, where this is, I think mothers play a different role sometimes to be a nurturer, right? Like, kid falls down and scrapes her leg. Mom is there to comfort, to give it a kiss, and to hold the child. And the father is there to pick the child up and say, rub some dirt on it and get back out there. And there's a different relationship, and it's not less caring. It's just caring for a child in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think a child does best when they have people in their lives that can fulfill both of those. The one that, the mother sometimes that says, I want to bring caution to the situation. I want to help, prevent an accident. And the father who's constantly pushing out to be able to say, accidents are part of life, and we're going to have falls and spills sometimes, and we have to learn from those too. And I know that I'm kind of stereotyping father and mother here, and by all means, Kelsey has definitely pushed our children into trying new things, and I've been there to hold children when they're crying and stuff too. But I think that also is a part of our faith, right? Is trying new things. It was interesting at reconciliation when Creighton went. He watched Kelsey go up to reconciliation, and after she came back, he looked at me and said, "Are you going to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll go, Creighton." And he goes, "Well, I'll go. I'm ready when you are." And I think there's this element of there's things in our faith life that are uncomfortable too. And that we're going to fail on, we're going to struggle with, but just like it is in all these other aspects. And I think men now have to be very courageous, because there's so many things outside of our children that want our attention. And so sometimes it's so easy to just think, well, that's not my role in my child's life. I'm the provider, and that's my main job. But that really is a part of the job. But
the protecting, I think, is
right. The protecting,
the most meaningful,
right? And what that means, it's not just it's not just when there's a bear running through Bellevue, and I'm going to take my shotgun and be ready for okay, I got to protect my family. But it's protecting against the evils of the world and the sometimes the protecting from, we're going to experience emotion.
Right.
We're going to experience those things, but it's that protecting against the spiraling into into a deeper, into a bad place where a father sometimes can say, hey, we need to be called to better. We need to do something different.
Right. Yeah. Or even like protecting from the enemy, and giving your kids the tools that they need to protect themselves spiritually.
Right.
Because I think also like for a father to be able to have that faithful example, like they have to also know the father. So, that example of like Creighton wanting to go to confession after you do, I think that is like so important. I think that's like the reason that statistic is so high, because kids see everything that you do. And if they hear you say like, we're just gonna skip mass this week because like we're tired, like we don't feel like it, or we're not gonna say our prayers tonight because we just had a long day, or that person who needs our help, like we don't really have time to help them right now. But I think that strong leadership of the father is what shows their kids like what it means to be faithful by living that example. And without the father having the relationship with God the Father, I think that's sometimes where it gets lost. And that's, where sometimes, kids aren't able to, combat these spiritual warfare that is in our world, or leads them to all this sin because they haven't been led by example. They don't know what to do in the world, in like a God-centered world. They're all in this earthly world, and not headed towards eternity because they haven't been taught that.
It's very difficult, I think, to be a father today when so often our examples from our own fathers is one of fathers and men that tried really hard, right? And fathers, I think, the idea of play is one that I think a lot of fathers really struggle with. That idea of deep connections with our children is one I think a lot of fathers struggle with. But I also think fathers struggle with the responsibility that really comes from fatherhood. Because imagine that kind of pressure that comes with, my children are going to understand who God is by the way that I treat them and through their perspective. Because when they pray to God the Father and their experiences with a father are somebody who doesn't have time for them because they have to work, or their experience with God the Father is somebody who is mad because they interrupted them when they had something better to do. I think that is a lot of pressure if you think about like, okay, I'm supposed to always play the role of the father of the prodigal son story, of every time my child comes to me, I'm arms wide open, and I always, we're celebrating again because you're gone for 5 minutes and you played with Play-Doh, and now the prodigal son has returned. He's back to my arms. But I think the idea of who we see God to be is often deeply influenced by our own fathers, and I think that we can find that responsibility so overwhelming that it can almost paralyze us into a role of, I'd rather not. I'd rather not have to worry about this anymore. I'd rather it not be this way. I'd rather do something with my friends, or I'd rather do something, with my work or with my job or with whatever it might be, to try to avoid that level of responsibility. That really prevents a lot of fathers from living out the vocation of fatherhood to the fullest extent. And if we didn't have anybody to play with us when we were little, then play is something that we struggled to provide. And if we didn't have somebody I see a lot of fathers as a principal. It's an interesting perspective I get to take because a lot of the elementary kids, I'm surprised that they kind of gravitate, to me. I think it's because here's a male figure. It's really interesting. And
all our teachers are female in the elementary, just
right.
FYI.
Yeah. And just, I think that's an interesting phenomena. I can't really explain. I don't think I do anything. I know our teachers care deeply about those
Yeah,
the
no,
children.
it's just, it's different. Like the male role is different because
kids gravitate to
yeah,
it.
I think it's like also like a safety thing. Like, and that's, I think, how God intended it to be.
Right.
When I teach theology of the body in second grade, it's complicated because, the girls are like, well, that's not fair. Like, why can't girls be priests? So like, that's a whole different subject. But like, we talk a lot about like how females have beautiful gifts and men have totally different beautiful gifts. And that's why God made them in Genesis when it says they're helpers, like they need each other. And when I give the example, like imagine like you're at home and there's like a burglar in your house. And, if you think about it, your mom is probably going to run to you, like the kids, because she is like the nurturer, the caretaker. And your dad is probably going to be the one who's going to go like investigate the situation. Like it just kind of it's just a way to show that like everybody has their gifts and like God intended for it to be that way.
I think that this idea of uniformity versus unity exists. Like, unity doesn't equal uniformity. And for us to be exactly the same, male and female, it doesn't it's not unity. We're talking a different thing. And unity is understanding that there's gifts and talents and abilities and skills and all these different things. And again, I don't want to get into the idea of stereotyping into women do this and men do this, but at the same time, there are different roles that we play in the family. And I think that, as a father, where do I fulfill my fatherly vocation? And so, we were talking about, God being known through fathers and how difficult and the pressure that can put on. I think that the biggest thing, though, that I try to remind myself through that is it's okay to realize I'm not God. And I mean, we all should realize that.
Right.
I think we remind ourselves of that oftentimes throughout every day. But it's not okay to not try. And it's not okay to not be courageous, to be able to say, yeah, that is a big responsibility, but it's one that I have to try to live up to. And I think that there's a lot of fathers that try doing it in different ways of, coaching their child in their sports, which can certainly help build a relationship with the kid and show their child that I care about you and that I want you to know that I'm there for you. But it doesn't have to be that level sometimes, or it doesn't have to be that thing. It can just be that conversation in a car of, I'm not going to call a parent out. This happened years and years ago. There was a parent it was having a hard time with their child, and their child was struggling with behaviors at school and was really having a hard go of things. And the parent, was talking to me about that and what can I do? And I said, well, do you talk to your child? And she goes, I'll try that. And a couple of days later, she was back up at the school and she said, I tried that, but we just don't have anything in common to talk about. I'm like, well, that's not what talking to your child means. Like,
right.
I don't expect to talk to my child about what taxes I'm doing. Like that, I don't want to talk about that in the first place, or about my bank account, or about the things that are troubling me. I want to know about the Lego creation that my child built and take a genuine interest in that. And when they draw a picture, and they share it with me, and it's so easy to say, oh man, yeah, I'm busy cooking, or I'm busy picking up, or I'm busy whatever I'm working on at the moment. And those are the moments where I think that we can be God to our children and look at that picture and say, tell me more. Tell me more about what this is. And letting their heart be expressed through their words, letting them tell you the creation they built. It was really funny. Dorothy just did this at the state tournament at the hotel. Kelsey brought some Legos along. And she said, Dad, look what I made. And she had this Lego thing. I said, "Oh, what is that?" She goes, "I don't know. What is it?" I said, "Well, it looks to me like it might be a tree." She goes, No, it's not that.
Not.
What do you think? What do you think it is now? And we played this game where I was guessing what she created. Mm-hmm. And for her to watch her eyes light up every time I took a guess, and for her to laugh and say, "No, that's not." It took a few seconds, but it also celebrated her creation. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't always get this right. And I'm not going to get on a podcast and be like, this is not a parenting podcast from Geoff Kaiser. I could not run a podcast like that.
And I'm not a parent. So.
Right. but I would say those are the moments that stick out to me in my parenting. Those are the moments of setting those core memories for your child. And I remember those moments as a child with my dad, the bike ride that we would do. I don't even, like my dad, we'd be watching the news, the nightly news, and then the news would get over. He goes, "Let's go for a ride." And we'd get on our bikes and just, ride around. And he didn't, I'm sure now looking back, he had 100 other things that he probably could have done or should have done or wanted to do more. Or maybe not. Maybe that's what he wanted to do most at that moment. Mm-hmm. And I hope it was a second. And I hope that as a father, that I can have those moments where there is nothing more I want to do than to hear my child tell me about something that they've created, or to pause and pray with my children, or to stop what I'm doing. And that's what I don't want to do anything else right then. Mm-hmm. I just want to be there. And when I can let myself experience those moments, I think it helps me stay faithful, because it's remembrance to myself of the way that God looks at us, of every time that we pray, every time that we pause and in gratitude, or even just acknowledge God's glory around us, that there's nothing more than that God wants other than to just be with us. So I think, fatherhood is a beautiful thing. And if we can just allow ourselves to pause and understand that there isn't anything more important, in those moments and in those times, and to our children that hopefully go on long before our lives are done and on earth, and that they're going to think back to their fathers, and they're going to be parents maybe someday, or they're going to play a fatherly role in the lives of somebody. And to be that protector, and be that person that can stop and play, and be that person that doesn't want anything more than to just be there in that moment. Mm-hmm. I think that's what that call is, and it's that I think when you have that too, children are going to be a lot more open to those moments of, this is important to me. Right? Mm-hmm. Like I showed you, I don't do it. It's not like a trade-off, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we can get that image in our head of like, to God, I'm going to pray to you right now. And if I pray to you right now, then you're going to give me something back in return. You're going to bless me with money, or you're going to, give the boys basketball team this last win or whatever. We can't bargain with God. Yeah. Right. And it's not a bargaining thing. It's a relationship thing with our children, that by me caring sincerely about what my child is doing and about them in that moment, that they're going to see that there's things that are important to us that they want to be a part of as well. And if we make that part of what's important to us, our faith, and where I know on Sundays I wake up and I sometimes say, hey, we get to go to Mass today. When one of my children will say, oh, we have to go to Mass. We get to go to Mass. Mm-hmm. And I think for them just to hear that, the constant reminder, at some point, maybe it'll stick with them. But they know it's important, and they know they're not getting out of it.
Right.
And they're young right now. I haven't had teenagers yet. I know some parents that teenagers, they have a different reality and experience with their children. And like I said, this isn't a parenting session of I'm not going to try that. But I think that our children still see what's important to their parents. And I think that, again, there were times where I struggled with my own father. I think he would say that he struggled with me at times. And now that I've gotten older and he's gotten older, and again, I can look back and I can see that he tried his best, and I can learn, and I've learned to appreciate that. That's all we can expect and hope for, is that we do the best that we can for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Because ultimately, like you said, fatherhood is a vocation. And any good vocation, when you know it's a vocation, is leading you to heaven. And fatherhood is a vocation that you are not only helping yourself get to heaven, but also like your ultimate goal is to help your family get to heaven with you. Just like a husband and a wife, when they marry, their goal is to help each other to eternity. Like your ultimate goal as a father is to help your kids towards eternity. And yeah, that's really a gift that also leads fathers to heaven, who choose to keep that vocation and to treat it as a vocation. Yeah. And not perfectly, obviously.
Right. And I know technically teaching, doesn't qualify as a vocation.
Oh, I consider it a vocation. Thank you very much.
We had Father Gross stopped in, and he talked about technically in the church there's only certain things are vocations. I forget, because I used to always say this is my vocation, but I think in the same way you can experience all of these when you're helping children get to heaven, and children can open our eyes into a part of our lives that we would forget about if it wasn't for children. I think, you look into the curiosity, and you look into the playfulness, and you look into the moments where, there's an innocence there that I think that we crave to experience again. And I think that can help us out in our relationship with God too, because we are, even as fathers, we are called to be like the children sometimes, and that's okay. We're protectors of our family, but we are also there to set an example of it's okay to for the workaholics out there, for the guys that are always working in the garage or working in the office or wherever it might be, that it's okay to put that down and remember that, yes, we're providers, but we're providers in so many ways. And we're providers of sometimes the smiles and the joy too, not just, I think sometimes
monetary.
Yeah, fatherhood sometimes gets reduced to that, right?
Yeah.
This is all I feel like I do is I just, I'm just here to make sure that they can afford life.
Get more Legos.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they got plenty of those. And so it's like, what else is there for me to do?
I agree.
But
I agree.
Yeah.
One more fun fact about St. Joseph before we wrap up. Do you know the lily story? I did not know the lily. Oftentimes, St. Joseph is depicted with a lily. And the story goes that when Mary's parents were looking for a husband for Mary, they knew that Joseph was the one because his staff miraculously turned into like lilies.
Wow.
And that's how they knew that he was the one.
I have a feeling if I ever saw let's say a female, and I was like, I don't know if she's the one, and then she was carrying something that instantly turned into a flower of some sort, I'd be like, all right. This seems like it's probably meant to. She seems pretty special. That seems like a. So, I know I did not know that. I've seen him with the lilies before.
Yeah, and the lilies also symbolize like purity and strength. And
good for him.
Yeah, great. Good for you, Joseph.
Yeah,
good for you.
That's a good thing to do.
Yeah. All right. Well,
can you relate?
So I watch a lot of documentaries, and like now, like the latest thing is like they'll have a documentary from like this perspective, and then they'll have another documentary from a different perspective. And it just leads me to believe both sides. And then I have no idea who the murderer is. Like, and I think like I could be convinced in any documentary that that person was the bad person, and then like tell me something else, and I'm like, oh, well, clearly that's not true.
I think that's why there's so many hung juries, right? Where it's like, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Right.
So like you tell me one thing, I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. But then you tell me another thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. I could believe a lot of things.
I'll have a, can you relate to the situation that we just experienced? There's daylight savings, time just ended. And so now we're back to where all the clocks got moved forward. And if I don't change the clocks within the first 2 weeks, that clock's not getting changed until the next year. I'm like, well, now at this point, I might as well just wait until this thing comes back around again. It's going to happen in November sometime. So, point in changing it now. It's been 2 weeks. And I'll just subtract the hour every single time. But Kelsey used to set her clock forward 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So that way she'd always be early.
Yeah.
I go, that is not going to happen. All you do is you get really good at doing 10-minute math because you're always like, this clock is 10 minutes ahead every time you look at it. And so now you just have a clock that's wrong that you have to do math on every time. And you're not early to anything. That's my can you relate.
Okay. And I've got another can you relate.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Can you relate to saying the same can you relate?
Is that what I said last time?
You were on?
Oh, man.
No, like we'll leave it.
No.
I'm almost positive it was.
I think you're right. Because as I was saying it, I was
But
like,
I
this
think
sounds
that's
familiar.
perfect. People need to hear it again.
Yeah, well, it's a good one. It's the only thing that I can relate to anybody. Otherwise, it's just, ooh. Well, I'm like going through stuff. I'm like, well, my legs get tired when I bike, but everyone like can relate to that. Like, so I don't know how that works. And then like guitar play, like when you hit a wrong note and you're just
loser.
Yeah, right. I'm like, I don't know.
I think it's perfect.
I have a lot of bizarre hobbies, so it's like,
you do.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. You're still thinking of a different can you relate, but
well, like I was like at Mass this past week, I had Dorothy, and she gets this cough in the cold. I think she's got a little bit of asthma, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you for sure. But it sounds like asthma coughing. And anyway, so we got up to Mass, and she starts coughing, and then I'm like, oh, I got to walk her to the back because I don't know if she's going to, it sounds like she's just going to hack up a lung. And you got all these older people that go to church, and I want them to feeling like my daughter's really sick. I know she's fine, but she's coughing. And so I walked her to the back, and then I was like, I got to run home and get her medicine. So I just left her with like a parent in the back. I'm like, hey, watch my daughter for a second. I'll be right back. So I ran home and got the medicine, came back up, got her a little inhaler. It's really cute. And then I'm like, but then she wanted to go upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to disrupt her in the, kind of in the middle of the homily right now. So I don't want to interrupt, what Father has to say. So then we go up to the top, and then at the end, I guess that all in all, the like, can you relate is like, I remember every once in a while, Kelsey and I will go to Mass without children. And like, I'm like,
wow, this happens at the Mass.
Yeah, it's like like you're reborn almost. It's like, wow, because I think that there's a lot of that saying of like die to self, and I think a lot of us hear that sometimes and like, okay, yeah, and then I think that there's an element of like living it out. I was a very different father when I had Creighton, and Creighton was 2 weeks old versus when I had Dorothy, and Dorothy's 2 weeks old, because I've already died to self. I'm so dead to self at this point where it's just like, I mean, there's something new.
There's something there. Yeah, there's something there somebody will relate to.
I'll fine point that point to say next time.
All right. Well,
thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming, especially on such short notice.
Yeah.
So we are back to school this week. School, what is that?
Yeah, right. It's been a while. Can you relate?
Can you relate? Unofficial spring break.
Yes.
Is what I was calling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one, though.
All right. Well,
It was like a Midwest goodbye. Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me.
yes. Thanks for joining us. As always, we are praying for you. And Father would now say, God bless you all.
God bless you all.
Bye.
Bye.